up, everybody? Welcome to First Round By. It is your favorite Friday night, guys, and we are here. Um, some changes, to say the
Yeah, I
least.
mean, you could say that. Yeah.
Right, but we're here. We didn't want to miss a beat. Um, we have a lot of big things coming, but for now, this is what we're doing. Obviously, we couldn't have everything perfect, just because of how short notice everything was. But we're getting it together. I promise, guys. So we're definitely gonna get that, make that happen. And tonight's gonna be a shorter show, just because it's so hectic. This week has been so hectic. But my man Jake has
Yes,
rolling me
sir.
through it. Us, some of the boys, we've had a lot of adversity to work through, but we're doing that and we're making it happen. So thank you guys for tuning in and joining us. Tonight we're going to be talking about Cole Beasley. We're going to be talking about the defense and who we want to see on the team next year versus who we do not want to see on the team next year. But I got my main man Jake Jordan in the building with me tonight. Jake, the Bills fan. What's going on, Jake?
What is going on, dude? Of course, I would rather not be anywhere than doing our show here on Friday nights. Of course, not on the same platform that, we did it prior, but is going to be the platform that we do it moving forward. So, obviously, a whole big part of this show is moving forward, not only for us, but for the Buffalo Bills as a team. It is about moving forward. So, we got a lot of stuff to talk about. Obviously, we already ran over all of the offensive position groups in a episode prior. So now we're going to attack the defense, where I think there's a little bit more to talk about. But before we do that, obviously the big news today of, the Buffalo Bills are allowing Cole Beasley to seek a trade. And, there's some people that are happy about it. There's some people that, are like, oh my God, this is going to be the end of the world. Why are we doing this? And then there's some people that are like, yeah, I'm so glad that anti-vaxxing, like asshole is not like going to be on the tip. Like there's so many different things flying around on Twitter right now, but I want to talk to you about it because I feel it's a little, I find it a little bit odd of a coincidence that right after the Bills are shown to have extensive interest in some of these receivers during the combine and in their interviews, the next day we hear we're going to allow Cole Beasley to seek a trade. So I think that there's a little more into that we can read into, and I got to get your thoughts on it. What are you thinking about Cole Beasley seeking a trade?
I mean, I think it's best for all parties involved, honestly. I think, Cole Beasley is probably better off going to another team where he can thrive. I think that, Gabe Davis and Stephon Diggs, I think Isaiah McKenzie is I mean, we'll see if he comes back, but I think that he is making, himself known in this and on this roster. He's becoming a force that you kind of can't ignore, you know. Can I'm sorry, these glasses, whenever I wear them, it makes my face look like black as my hair, right? So I'm just gonna have to take my glasses off and not be able to see anything. Just so you guys can see my beautiful face. But as far as Cole Beasley, like I said, I don't know if Isaiah McKenzie can come in and just like do his job and be like as productive as Cole Beasley or anything like that. But I also think, all right, if I look at this offense, what's something that we're really lacking, and it's speed, right? And the problem with Cole Beasley is he brings, like, if there was a collective 40 time of all the wide receivers,
Yeah.
he brings that 40 time down bad. Like the average, he brings it down horribly, especially our top three. Like Gabe Davis is kind of fast. He's not like
Yeah.
a speedster. He's also like 6'2", so he doesn't need to be
He's sneaky
yeah,
fast.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
He's more fast than you would expect for somebody his size, right? Now, Stephon Diggs is fast. All right, he's not the fastest, but he's fast, right? Then you got like Isaiah McKenzie, he's pretty fast, he's up there. And then it's like Cole Beasley is just not fast at all, right? And it's nothing against him. I love Cole Beasley. I feel like Josh doesn't become the quarterback he is today without Cole Beasley, to be
Yeah.
completely honest with you. So I would never. I'm appreciative of Cole Beasley. Cole Beasley video is coming soon, so look out for that. That will be the first highlight video to drop on Breakdown Buffalo, so you guys will have something to look forward to there. That's coming probably as soon as they announce the trade, honestly, but we'll see. Yeah, I think if he can go somewhere else, find a quarterback who can maybe like a Drew Lock-ish quarterback or something like that. You know what I mean? Somebody who isn't quite developed, who needs veteran savvy,
Yeah.
who needs a short, guy who's running the 4, 5, 6 yard routes and who, is an easy underneath pass that he can get the ball to, who knows, because Cole Beasley obviously is a mastermind. He's a route demon. He can get in between any zones. Like, I love Cole Beasley, and I would love to see him back on his team. But at the same time, I also wouldn't be mad if we drafted like we drafted a wide
Yeah.
receiver.
Say it.
Like,
Say it. Jameson Williams. You wouldn't
yeah,
be
like
you picked him.
I wouldn't be mad. Like I can't be mad.
Yeah.
Like So I love Cole, and it's kind of one of those things. It's like the Jerry Hughes boat for me. It's kind of like, man, I wish, but I mean, what you want me to do? Like, we need more from, and you play like a key role. You getting paid a little bit of money, So I was doing the Buffalo Fanatics like simulator thing or
Yeah.
whatever.
The
Is
GM
Cole
thing.
Beasley
Yeah.
gonna be like $6 million or something like
Say
that?
yeah. So the Bills saved 6.1 million, and I think that is the big thing in this whole thing,
Yeah,
right? Is
definitely.
I brought it up is I think that what happened was the Buffalo Bills don't want Cole Beasley to leave. They don't want, like, obviously him and Josh Allen, their connection ever since he came to Buffalo, it's been a thing. Like, he has been instrumental in the development of Josh Allen. But what we can say is that the Buffalo Bills, even though these guys were instrumental to that development, they're not afraid to let these guys go if they feel that they can make the team better. I mean, just look at John Brown last year. They get rid of John Brown, they bring in Emmanuel Sanders. And you kind of see what happened to John Brown throughout the league after that. All last year, just bounced around practice squads. So I think that the Bills are kind of on the boat where they're like, hey, we can save 6.1 if we let you go. They brought him into the office. They said, hey, we don't know if that 6.1 figure is viable for us. Let's talk about a pay cut and stuff like that. And I don't think Cole Beasley was having
Which
it
is
because he
well within
knows.
his right.
Yeah. And obviously, that's why they're like, all right, well, then go seek a trade. Like, if somebody wants to pay you the 6.1 and we can trade you, then obviously we'll do that. But I think that in reality, Cole Beasley is seeing that he is on that last leg of his career, man. Like, he's right there. And the Bills are probably one of those teams that are like, hey, we don't think that you're really worth 6.1 million. And, we'd like to bring that number down. And he's like realizing he's only got a couple of years left of real productivity in the league where he can get paid this money. So he's probably looking to still make that kind of money and not take a pay cut just to stay on a team. So I think that Cole Beasley probably doesn't want to leave, but Cole Beasley, wants to still make that money, and the team isn't willing to have that commitment for it. So I think that the thing that I get out of all this is I really wish this happened after we re-signed Isaiah McKenzie,
Yeah.
because with all of this stuff happening now, that makes Isaiah McKenzie going into negotiations with the Bills have way more leverage than he would have with Cole Beasley still being on the team. Now, that being said, Cole Beasley is still on the team right now, right? But with news going out that they're going to allow him to seek a trade, that is just bringing that wide receiver room down one more
Yeah,
person
that's
in a
true.
position that Isaiah McKenzie was playing in last season. So now that he is trying to get a contract and probably wants to stay in Buffalo, he's like, hey, look, if you guys are going to trade him away, then you don't have really many options. So he has a little bit more leverage to be like, hey, I'll come back and be that guy. But you got to pay me a little bit more. So what do you think that looks like? Because now when we look at the room, if you take away Cole Beasley, You really got Stephon Diggs, Gabriel Davis, Marquez Stevenson, Isaiah Hodgins, and Tanner Gentry. Like,
Mhm.
I think that you got to at least bring back Isaiah McKenzie if you're going to drop Cole Beasley, and then you got to draft a guy, man. Like,
Yeah, ideally you're bringing back Isaiah McKenzie. I
mhm.
think that's like a regardless type of thing.
Yeah.
Um, I want to see Isaiah McKenzie in the offense because I want to see what Ken Dorsey and Joe Brady look like with Isaiah McKenzie because that
Mhm.
sounds like fun to me. And that's really my thing with Cole. Yeah, man, just the production. Like obviously it wasn't there last year, and we looked at Gabe Davis, and we keep looking at Gabe Davis, and Gabe Davis just keeps producing, and we're like,
Mhm.
nah, he was getting lucky. Like, okay, he got lucky in last year's playoffs. He got lucky all of last season. He got lucky all
Mhm.
of this season and all of this postseason. I mean,
I
boy, lucky as hell. And if he'd had lucky, I want him out on the field. So,
yeah.
you know, I would love to see him come in, be the number two. I mean, Jameson Williams or something or somebody like that.
Yeah.
If they come in, they could be the number two, number three. We have Isaiah McKenzie in the slot as the gadget guy. And
Mhm.
who's to tell? Maybe we get a guy like Cordell Patterson who has been linked to
Mhm.
Buffalo. Um, well, real quick, before we get into the defense and everything, because I know we have the
Okay.
limited time. What do you think about the rumors that Saquon Barkley? Yeah, well, Vegas has him basically even odds that he's coming to Buffalo. What do you think about that?
Okay. So with Saquon, I think it's a double-edged sword, right? Is that it can go one of two ways. You can either get Saquon, who is the player that he's supposed to be when he's healthy and is one of the best premier running backs in the league. Like, or you get the Saquon that's sitting over on the sideline with a headset on because he's injured. So you're taking that risk when you get a guy like that. And in reality, if you're going to get Saquon Barkley, you need to make sure that you're not still paying that premium for Saquon Barkley if you trade for him. Like all of the reports are the Giants want a first round pick for Saquon Barkley. That ain't happening. Like I'm sorry, nobody is
Right.
going to take on Saquon for a first round pick. He does not have that value, especially with the injury history. So Saquon, they say, is worth like a fourth. Okay, so if I'm giving up a fourth round pick for Saquon Barkley, and he is, the Giants are still eating some money. I forget the numbers that Greg
Oh
Thompson
yeah.
had
I
put
mean,
out there.
if,
Yeah,
if they eat money, then okay. But I'm about to say I wouldn't
yeah.
even give up a four for him.
But yeah, but like straight up with the contract that Saquon has, no way in hell do I want him on the team, especially because we know the type of system that the Buffalo Bills, well, were running. We don't know exactly what Ken Dorsey is going to do, but I'm going to assume it's going to be a little bit more of the same. So I don't think that running back is something that they want to have a lot of money tied up into. So if you're getting Saquon with the Giants eating up some of the capital that is in his contract still, then I don't see the harm in having it and getting Saquon. That's fine. Like, but if you're telling me that it's a fourth and you're getting everything that's being said, I don't want that. It's the same thing with Christian McCaffrey. It's just one of those things where, like, unless the other team's willing to eat some money so that it's more palatable for the Bills to take on, I'm not taking that chance on that player. I'd much
Bingo.
rather just keep rolling with Devin Singletary in this contract year that we have, and then draft a dude, and then just let Josh do his thing in the passing game and sprinkle in the run like we were doing. I don't think that we need a premier running back.
Yeah. And I mean, if that is the case, listen, all right, let me preface what I'm saying by
All
if
right.
Saquon Barkley comes to Buffalo, it's over. Okay. Now I'm fully aware that Brandon Bean is not a moron, which I'm thankful
Yeah.
for, right? Um, I feel like if there was a situation where there was an opportunity for Saquon Barkley to be in Buffalo, it would be, with some logic behind it, right? It
Yeah.
wouldn't just be, some off the cuff thing where it's just like, oh, we're gonna risk our future and mortgage our future to get Saquon Barkley. No, we don't
Yeah.
need Saquon Barkley. Would Saquon Barkley absolutely destroy a healthy Saquon Barkley absolutely destroy in Buffalo? Yes, Absolutely. I mean, like it's now unfair. It's like if you gave the Kansas City Chiefs Alvin Kamara, it just wouldn't be fair, right? So
Mm-hmm.
if Brandon Bean could make something happen where we don't have to eat so much money, where I would be even willing to give up a second or a third if they can eat most of his contract or whatever the case is. I don't know how all those numbers work, but Brandon Bean does, and hopefully he can make it happen. So I would love to see Saquon Barkley on this team. Like, are you kidding me, bro?
Oh
Like,
yeah.
what? What? First of all, Devin Singletary is not no slouch. If Saquon
Mm-hmm.
Barkley, if let's say Derrick Henry and Jonathan Taylor are nines, because 10 is like Walter Payton, Barry Sanders, right?
Yeah.
So let's say Derrick Henry and Jonathan Taylor are nines. Saquon's about 7.5, right?
I was
And I would
I was
say
I
I
was
would
just
say
about to
Devin real
say,
quick. I would say Devin is like a
yeah.
7. So what would you say?
I was gonna say that if you've got Derrick Henry and Jonathan Taylor in, that space and like the nines, you got to say that the next group under him is your guys like Nick Chubb, Ezekiel
Yep.
Elliott, and Saquon Barkley.
Yep.
Like, and even Christian McCaffrey when he's healthy.
Right.
Like, those are guys that are just elite weapons to have. But the problem is just the availability.
Yeah.
So, another thing too that I want to bring up, because we were talking about wide receiver, and another thing that I see, like our friends over at the Air Raid Hour, they just put out some highlight tape of Christian Kirk and how Josh Allen is friends with Christian Kirk and how he's going to be looking for a contract, and now this whole Beasley thing is happening, and Christian Kirk in the slot sounds absolutely beautiful. Oh, I see T in the comments section. What up, T? I love that.
Sorry, I'm on full screen now.
Yeah,
Just want
no,
to
it's
have
fine.
nobody
It's
in the
fine.
chat.
Hmm. I see it. I like the idea that the Bills now are kind of like, we all sit here now, right? And it's like, oh, we might lose Cole Beasley, and oh, who knows what's going on with all that. Like, I think that the Buffalo Bills are now a premier destination now. And there's going to be things that we don't think happen. Like, everyone's like saying, oh, Christian Kirk wants big money. Christian Kirk might just be like, hey, look, I'll just take a couple year deal, try to win some championships with my boy that I hang out with in the offseason. He's still going to make his money. He's not going to make like top dollar, but you give that man a couple of years to compete for some rings, and then that dude can go on to make a ton of money elsewhere, or decide to stay in Buffalo if he wants to stay with Josh Allen. That's the thing, is a lot of people aren't really realizing the power of having Josh Allen as our quarterback now. Like, you're going to have guys that are coming in saying, hey, like, yeah, I can go to the New York Jets and they can pay me like the giant bag, or I can come here, still make generational wealth, by the way, for a couple of years, and compete for championships. And then say I win one, finally, I've cemented myself a bit, and I can go move on and go get giant bags elsewhere, because everybody knows that when you're on a team and you win a championship, your price tag goes up a little bit more because you're one of those championship caliber players. So
Right.
I think that the Buffalo Bills are in play for a lot of players this year that, yeah, we're over the cap. Jake, what are we talking about here? Like, we can't afford anybody. Like, I hate saying that the cap is a myth, because it's not, because you have teams like the Saints and the Packers right now that are absolutely in cap hell. But
You
like,
say the Rams? Make sure you
no,
mention the Rams.
no, like, you get those teams and you see what their cap situation is. The Bills are like, what, 4 million over? That's one Cole Beasley
I think
trade or
3.
cut away from
Yeah.
being under again. So,
Right.
and there's a bunch of other moves that they can make. And when you look at Joe Shane saying that, yeah, we were going to have money to play with this offseason, when he was talking about what he was doing in Buffalo before he came over, pretty sure that there's a plan in place to be able to free up some money for the Bills this season. So I definitely think they're going to be in the mix for a lot of players. So right now, especially Gronk, and obviously I would like to get your take on that, Justice, because that was a big thing going all up on Twitter this weekend or this week, is that people were all up in arms about Gronk. So Like we'll finish that off with that, and then we'll start talking about this defense here.
Yeah.
So, how you feeling about Gronkowski and him possibly coming to Buffalo?
Um. See, man, like, of course, when I thought about it first, I'm like, no, fuck him,
Mhm.
like I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
like him, right? On top of the whole Trey White thing, he also played for the Patriots, and
yeah,
right. But then again, I'm thinking like, if Trey White is cool with it, what am I gonna complain about, right?
yeah.
Oh, do I think he makes our team better? I think he's better than Tommy Sweeney. So that means yes. So
I'm.
I was about to say, like, we basically went through the last year with one tight end, on the
Mhm.
roster, and we had Reggie Gilliam kind of, playing, double dipping between
Yeah.
fullback and tight end. So I mean, absolutely. He's kind of old, but man, his frame, that's a big frame. It's kind of
So
hard to knock the ball down, kind of hard to get around him.
yeah.
And another thing that I say often about Kansas City before, and then you can go after this real quick.
Mhm.
Um, he's smart. Like, he may have like the reputation for being a moron,
Yeah.
but football IQ, you don't play with Tom Brady for a decade and don't learn something. You don't win
Dude's mental.
3, 4, however many championships
Mhm.
and don't learn something. So I can promise you, Rob Gronkowski knows a lot about the game of football, a lot of tricks that he could give to a guy like Dawson Knox. And hell, maybe we drafted a guy in the 5th or 6th round or something like that, and start to develop multiple guys. But I wouldn't be mad at Rob Gronkowski. What are you thinking?
Yeah, so a lot of people were quick to jump on the, oh, well, look at these Trey White comments from 5 years ago, which may I add that those are right after that incident happened. So, yeah, anybody's probably not going to
Yeah,
be quite too fond of a player right after they try some shit like that. But that was 5 years ago. We got to remember that's 5 years ago. And yeah, Trey White probably isn't 100% over it, but we also have to believe that Trey White wants what's best for this team. So let's
yeah,
say there
that's
is
true
a
too.
problem there. They're going to consult Tre'Davious White. We've heard in the past that, when they were bringing in Mitchell Trubisky, they called Josh up and they said, hey, we're thinking about doing this. How do you feel about it? Because they want to know. So if they're bringing in Gronkowski, this staff knows what happened between Tre'Davious White and Gronkowski. So what are they going to do? They're going to talk about it.
All right.
And if it's all good with all parties, he will be a Buffalo Bill if he chooses to be. And if somebody's saying, well, I don't want him, this is one of the greatest tight ends in history,
I mean,
a game that's playing.
if
He
he's
could be
not
the
the greatest,
greatest.
he's knocking on the door. I mean, like,
Yeah.
he is slamming, like breaking the shit down, and he's
Yeah.
like almost through. Yeah,
He's there. He's trying
yeah,
to get that, like, that USAA membership, man. He's
exactly
he's
right.
trying to get
And
it. It's on the other side
without
of
the
the door.
military, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But
So
real quick. Oh wait, are
yeah.
you? I just want to get to T's question real quick before we go to the defense, because I know we don't have a bunch of time left. So
Yeah.
we kind of move a little. All right, but would you like Juju Smith-Schuster?
Uh, I mean, I would, but I really don't know exactly where you're throwing Juju in, especially with your future. Because again, this is a guy that when he was put in the number one wide receiver spot, he kind of flopped.
He
And
definitely
he did,
flopped.
yeah, he did not take that responsibility very well. His production completely dropped off whenever he was the one who started to get double covered, and AB wasn't on the complete other side taking up those double coverages. So, is he a guy? Well, I mean, yeah, if you're bringing him in and he's like wide receiver 3, yeah, he's probably going to do pretty good because he is, yeah, like T said, slot. Like, you bring him in, yeah, he's not going to command the double teams, and yeah, he's a good player when you do that. But do I think that the Buffalo Bills are going to do it? I don't know if he's exactly a process guy. You've heard about all the stuff that went down the locker room with the Pittsburgh Steelers and him doing TikToks and doing all that stuff. Like, and players not exactly getting along with him. Like, I don't know if that's the kind of attitude that they're bringing in there. They kind of like guys with really hard work ethic. And Juju, it always seemed like when anything came up and people questioned him, it was more or less him wanting to blame other people than to take accountability for himself, not being able to take that step up in that position. So what I like Juju, I mean, yeah, if he's super cheap, but I don't know if he's exactly a guy that the Bills will target. But again, they're pretty much going to be in play for anybody that they think can help upgrade the team. So, if Juju's on the team, I mean, I'm not mad,
Right.
but I think he's going to get his money somewhere else. I think some team like the Jets have been linked with Juju for a couple of years now. I think that he's probably going to be one of those
Chiefs
guys
too.
that they target. So,
I mean, he wanted. No, I'm sorry. Andy Reid wanted him to go to the Chiefs last year.
yeah.
And he decided to stay in Pitt for whatever reason. Now he kind of wants to go to Kansas City because he realized
Yeah.
that was a stupid mistake. And real quick, just to go back to touch on Rob Gronkowski real quick.
Yeah.
The Bills kind of, kicked the tires on them last year.
Yeah.
So I believe that conversation with Trey White has been long gone. I believe they had that a while ago,
Yeah.
before they ever showed any interest. So
And I wanted to finish my thought on there before we went on to Juju, is that you throw Rob Gronkowski in here again. Dawson Knox is kind of like your main tight end, and Tommy Sweeney was a healthy scratch for like the last 6 games of the season, right? So basically, the Bills they always have a tight end on the field. That's how they run it. So imagine they can run 12 personnel with Dawson Knox and Rob Gronkowski both on the field. That is, you're telling me
scary.
Dawson Knox, who's already an emerging tight end with one of the greatest tight ends of all time on the field, that's dangerous. And Rob Gronkowski, say what you want, that dude makes some of the most ridiculous catches ever. He's just got giant mitts where he's just like, you put the ball around him, he will grab it. So yeah, exactly. T, like Rob Gronkowski is an immediate upgrade. Like again, I've always talked about when you're upgrading a team, the Bills have the great foundation. So now everything you put on top of it are like little additions to your house that just increase the value. So Rob Gronkowski, he's not needed, but you put Rob Gronkowski on this team and you are automatically worth more as an offense. So I think that it's a no-brainer. If Rob Gronkowski wants to come on like for a 2-year deal to finish his career out in his hometown and probably be contending for championships each of those 2 years to finish out his career, I don't see why you don't do it.
Absolutely. I mean, if he wants to come, he's better than Tommy Sweeney. It's a net gain. If he's not too expensive, maybe he wants to ring chase. Catch out to Brady. I don't know.
Yeah.
Then yeah, man, come. Go ahead. Get busy.
Let's do it.
Absolutely. Let Josh, throw him, high point the ball. Who's stopping Rob Gronkowski? And who's stopping Dawson Knox if they are stopping Rob Gronkowski?
Yeah, exactly.
I'd like to see it. Absolutely. So let's go ahead and get into the defensive breakdown. That we started last week. We started with offense. Jake, you wanna go ahead and take over?
Well, yeah. So first, let's start off with special teams too, because we can't dedicate a whole entire show to special teams. So Reed Ferguson, that's our long snapper of the future. Don't even worry about it. Tyler Bass, kicker of the future. Don't even worry about it. Matt Hawk is the guy that we got to talk about because they kind of set up Matt Hawk's contract to line up with Tyler Bass's contract that he has right now. Matt Hawk is hot garbage. Like that is he is literally I believe, and I don't remember what podcast I was listening to today. I believe it was actually Locked on Bills. Matt Hawk is the worst statistical punter in the league last year. He was the worst,
especially after those shanks.
Yeah, he was absolutely terrible. Like to the point where Bills fans were cheering when he had a good punt. Like it was that bad. And Brandon Bean already talked about it in comments. He was like, yeah, we got to get better at that, which basically is the writing on the wall for Matt Hawk, because I don't believe that the Bills are going to keep a punter on the roster to just hold for Tyler Bass. Like there's plenty of punters out there that are average to above average punters and can hold the ball well. So you're not just going to pay a guy like Matt Hawk to just hold the ball and be a terrible punter. So I think he's gone. The Bills will either pick up a punter, or I believe they still have the Scottish Hammer. So maybe they'll use him. If not, they could draft one in the late rounds, or maybe even get an undrafted punter. Again, it doesn't matter. Punters, there's a ton of them out there that you can get. So, I mean, if you have any parting words on the Matt Hawk situation, then
Who's the
let it
Scottish
be known.
Hammer?
We signed him to our practice squad. He was the punter for the Browns, and then we ended up picking him up and putting on it. Let's see. I'm just gonna put up Scottish Hammer. He'll pop up. There you go, Jamie Gillan, the Scottish Hammer. He is he was a punter for the Giants and the Browns, and he's got a leg on him. Dude's got a leg. So
We should have brought him up. Yeah,
yeah,
but to answer your question, I was done with Matt Hawk after that one game. I can't remember who we played, but we played a team where they weren't even supposed to be close, and because of absolute, was it the Falcons?
I think so. Yeah, he had a couple of rough,
absolutely putrid punting that led to terrible, field position, and it was at a point where like there was no point in even punting because you might as well have gone for it.
Yeah, like we were at the point where last year we had Bojorquez. Bojorquez could flip a field.
Yeah,
like if he wasn't shanking it, that dude was the most up and down punter ever, right? Like he'd either coffin corner it and be amazing, or dude was shanking it.
That was
right?
his first year. And then his second year, he kind of was pretty awesome. But the only thing was he only had to punt like 50 times in the entire season.
Exactly. So we didn't really need to use him, and he was a terrible holder. I mean, just look at what happened with the Packers this year, man. Like he was also terrible this year for the Packers. So I think there was a reason why the Bills let him go and they didn't pay him what they did.
The reason they let him go is because he wanted to get paid more, and they were like, "Well, we're not paying that to a punter." It was like, "Bro, we're trying to win the championship here."
Yeah, exactly.
He was like, I want to get paid, and all right, you want to get paid, go be paid somewhere else.
you can't put that kind of money into the punter position, dude. Like I'm sorry, unless you got like a Pat McAfee back there, you don't need to put that kind of money into a punter. But to start off, we got defensive ends, and of course, we can talk about the draft a little bit. But defensive ends, basically rolling into the season next year, Justice, we have Greg Rousseau, Boogie Basham, AJ Epinesa, and Mike Love. So obviously, very, we're very, very light when it comes to the defensive end position because Jerry Hughes, Addison, Obata, and Brian Cox Jr. are all unrestricted free agent. Yes, caveman punters are people too. So and they're people, but we need good people on our team. We need I need a great people. Yeah, I need a talented punter on my team. And Matt Hawk knows how to hold a football for a kicker. But that's all he can do. And sadly, there's not a position called hold the ball for the kicker position.
Right.
So
you don't get a roster spot for that.
Yeah, you don't get a roster spot for that. So Jerry Hughes, Addison Obata, and Brian Cox Jr. all unrestricted free agents. So basically, we're rolling in with going into his third-year player and then 2 second-year players next year if we were to roll in with that. And that just doesn't cut it, Justice.
Yeah, I mean, I like all the players we have. I think Mike Love is really the only one who wouldn't see significant snaps, and I still like him as a developmental piece. I honestly, I hear the names that aren't coming back. I say I like Harrison Phillips back. We're talking about defensive ends.
Yeah.
I don't mind. Get rid of everybody. Everybody that was you just named. I don't necessarily absolutely physically need to see. Like there would be nobody who like, Jerry Hughes, of course I would be sad, but it wouldn't be like physically ill if Jerry Hughes didn't come back, so I'm perfectly fine with seeing Jerry Hughes go, perfectly fine with seeing everybody who you named go. Honestly, I would like a kind of shake up the defensive end spot. Now I know that won't happen. I know we'll probably see at least one of those guys back. If I had to put my money on it, I think we'll see Mario Addison back, although I hope not. But I think that's probably what we'll end up seeing. Yeah, man. I think you allocate your money, however Brandon Beane is gonna work this magic and flip around the salary cap and give us some room to work with, I think you use that room and you go get a defensive end. Like I mean, like a guy, a game wrecker,
Yeah,
a
and
guy's
that
guy. And
and I'm gonna
then we'll be on the right track.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say it right now. I don't care whether it's Jerry Hughes or Mario Addison. I think Jerry Hughes is a little bit better at just getting pressure back to the quarterback that another guy, if you actually bring in a guy, can actually clean up for it.
Yeah,
Mario Addison was that guy who benefited from that, and that's why he was our sack leader. So I think that, and I believe he was sack leader on the team for 2 years. The last 2 years he's been that guy with the sack leading. So
I think it
I
was
think
Jerry the
that
first year, wasn't it?
no, I thought Mario had like 7.5 last year, and then this year he had like 6.5, but he was still leading. You can look that up. But Mario Addison recently said like, "Oh, Buffalo doesn't want me to go." So I think that obviously they've relayed the message to him that they would like to keep him. I wouldn't be surprised if they try to roll Jerry Hughes and Mario Addison back in here just because they really overvalue veteran talent. I mean, that's something that's been a problem with our team for
Yeah,
years is they
especially
really
on the defensive
overvalue.
line.
Yeah, on the defensive line, they'll get guys who maybe don't produce, but man, they really value that veteran talent. Yeah, how'd that go for Trent Murphy and Vernon Butler
Vernon
now?
Butler.
I
You
mean, I
you
mean,
said the exact two people that I was thinking.
yeah, like how does that work? Like I don't completely understand, but I think one of those two guys will probably end up back. But I think that they need to go out and get a guy like Melvin Ingram and then draft a defensive end as well. I think that really if you're going to go, like, okay, you can bring back Jerry Hughes. Mike Love is a non-factor. So if you bring back Jerry Hughes and maybe you get a guy like Melvin Ingram who tried to ring chase last year, it didn't work out for him too well. So maybe if the Chiefs don't want to bring him back, and I would assume he probably wants to stay with the Chiefs because he meshed pretty well there after he got traded there last season. But if he did want to come somewhere else and entertained coming to Buffalo, I think Melvin Ingram is a guy that if you still have Jerry Hughes or hell, even Gregory Rousseau over there, and he's a guy that can just clean up for it, I mean, he's still one of those dudes. So I think if you can bring in a cheap free agent, someone who's ring chasing, and then you draft another defensive end, I think that you can pretty much shore up that defensive end position for you right there.
Yeah. I think we're on the same page there. Yeah, I think that our defensive end is our one position that really like is our weakest link to me.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's like having okay. So first of all, obviously having the trenches is the most important thing, right?
Yeah.
The trenches on the offensive ball is the most important thing because your quarterback needs to be able to make plays, right? Now, obviously, we have Josh Allen, who's one of one in terms of talent in the NFL at the quarterback position. So our offensive line gets helped out a little bit, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
Josh Allen eludes more sacks than anybody in the NFL. Now, our defensive line, they're not protecting anybody, right? Their job is to go get them,
Mm-hmm.
and they can't get any. They can't get to anybody. They can't get past anybody. Like there's no dogs. There's no guys that are just going and smacking. You know what I mean? Like it's people like just trying to contain their gaps or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I like we need. I keep saying this, but like a Micah Parsons type of guy. Somebody to just go out there and make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think that's what we need with defensive ends. But moving on to defensive tackles.
I was actually going to keep defensive tackle for last because I think we should quickly say safeties: Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer,
Yeah,
Jaquan Johnson, Damar Hamlin, Josh Thomas.
we're
It's
good
fine.
there. Yeah,
Yeah, we're good with safety, and then linebackers. Pretty sure they're just going to run it back with Tremaine Edmonds, Matt Milano, and then AJ Klein. I think AJ Klein is a guy that's either a cut candidate or him and
what
Tyler
about Tyler Matic?
Matakevich.
Yeah, I was just about to
Yeah,
say, what
like
about Tyler
like those
Matakevich?
guys, they're either getting restructured or all of that. Like
Yeah,
they're either getting restructured or cut. That's what they're doing because they've
yeah,
got money allocated in those positions to where these guys are, especially Matakevich, is pretty much contributing on special teams and special teams only, and he's getting paid way too much. So I
2.5 million a year. Need to bring that down, buddy.
yeah, exactly. So those guys I could see being in the realm of possibility where they get cut and maybe brought back on cheaper deals, or just get restructured and take pay cuts and then they stay on the team. So I think linebacker is also pretty much set. And then cornerbacks, of course, Levi Wallace is a unrestricted free agent. I think Levi Wallace is going to go get that bag. It's his opportunity to get generational wealth. He's been basically playing in Buffalo on, I mean, to the normal person, it's a lot of money, but to professional athletes, especially ones that have been in the position as Levi Wallace, a starter on one of the best coverage
Yeah.
teams in the league, he has been paid peanuts.
Yeah.
So it is finally time for, after a season where he had to step up to be CB1 in that, and they still led, even though I think that it had a lot to do with the way that the scheme was put in and our safeties were able to really help out. Levi Wallace still held it down for what it's worth, and he deserves to go get that money wherever he's paid. So I don't think Levi Wallace is back. I think you can kind of replace him with a guy like I've brought it up. There's a ton of cornerbacks that are actually going to be out there, like your Kyle Fullers or your Casey Haywards, guys that you can bring in on 1-year deals, and especially they can hold down the fort as CB1 until Tre'Davious White comes back healthy. And then when you get a guy like that and he's CB2 next to Tre'Davious White, I mean, that's a scary combination right there, man.
I kind of want Levi to leave because I feel like it would be overkill if Levi stayed a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I do feel like this is going to be the year where Bean goes out and makes a move to get talent in a secondary, and I don't think he feels the need to do that at the safety position for obvious reasons. I think he's going to do it at the cornerback position, right? And I say, okay, well, we got Tre'Davious White, who is our bona fide number one receiver. We got Dane Jackson, who is, basically played very well as a number 2 cornerback when Tre'Davious White was out, right? Then we have Teron Johnson, one of the best slot corners in the league.
Yes, sir.
So if we still had, Levi Wallace, now you're looking at Levi being a number 4, and if we bring in the guy, we're looking at him being possibly a number 5, right? So I just don't want Levi. I kind of don't want him to get lost in the sauce because, to your point, like you said earlier, he hasn't got paid that much. I mean, if you look at a guy who's been on a top 5 defense, his entire NFL, I think his entire career.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he's been in the league, like 3-4 years, something like that.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't think he's even cracked $10 million in terms of career earnings. So, I mean, bro, I go get your money, and I wouldn't be mad at him at all. My God.
Yeah. And I think too that we wouldn't have to worry about there being overkill, because if they bring back Levi Wallace, they're not getting a guy. Like they've showed that. They're like, all right, if they actually commit and pay Levi Wallace, he's our CB2 for the foreseeable future. But I think that his worth technically in the league is a little bit more than what the Bills are probably willing to pay. I think the Bills, so I think it's going to be kind of like a Shaq Lawson situation, where we didn't even bring up Shaq Lawson, but he's definitely someone who is in play to be in the defensive end rotation and brought back on a cheaper deal, especially with how he's bounced around the league, especially last year. But for cornerbacks, Levi, I think it's going to be a Shaq Lawson situation. We're willing to pay you this much. Another team's willing to pay you that much. And if they're willing to pay you that much, go get that. I'm so happy for you. Go do it. My guy, go get that bag. And I think that the Bills most likely if they bring in a guy like Casey Hayward or Kyle Duggar and Kyle Fuller, and they bring one of these guys in, and I think they also draft a cornerback within the first 4 rounds. I think they do that as well to have another guy, because you've got Saran Neal, who they just signed. And, part of that deal apparently is for him to play more significant defensive snaps. We'll actually see if that's something that happens. But I think that the Bills also draft a really talented corner finally within at least the first 4 rounds, not in the back half of the draft. And they put that guy behind somebody who's going to hold down the fort until Tre'Davious White is ready to come back, because as he said in his interviews at the Combine this week, that they are not going to rush Tre'Davious White back, and they are going to wait for the doctors to full. Yeah,
there's no need
so there's no need to rush Tre'Davious White back. We obviously saw what the scheme could do for guys when he was out. So especially if you bring in a guy who has been a number one corner before on a team and you put him in that position, he'll be able to hold it down until Trey White's back. But
Not
that's kind
only
of the
that, not
yeah.
only that, but if we go through next season, let's say Tre'Davious White can't come back until like mid-November, right?
Yeah.
Now let's say we're 11-3. It's November. Freaking, we got the number. Let's just be, reasonable, and let's say we have the number
Number
9 defense in the NFL, right?
yeah.
Tre'Davious White is now coming back,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So,
You're adding
like,
him to that team.
exactly, and now you're primed to make a playoff run, with this
Mm-hmm.
team, and then you bring back your best defender.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I think, like, nope. He's the best defender. You bring back your best defender on a Super Bowl potential team. I think it's out of the park. So, I think Levi should go get paid. I really
Yep.
don't want him to get lost in the roster and then
Yeah.
his opportunity to get paid. And yeah.
And I was
Yeah.
just going to say too, yeah, I definitely think Levi should go get paid again. I had conversations with you, with T on all these shows before the season even started. I doubted Levi. I think Levi definitely overperformed this season, and I really wish him the best, whether it's with the Bills or with another team. Obviously, if it's in our division, then no, I want you to be
Hell no. I don't
absolute. Yeah,
wish you, bro. I hope you
you
get
need to
roasted
get
nightly.
exposed.
Yeah.
I hope they Josh Norman your ass where you're a
Yep.
zone corner and they say, "Hey, we want you to play man to man on some of the best receivers in the league." And no, but anyway, yeah, no. Best of luck to Levi if he goes anywhere
Hell, if you go
outside
in
of our
somewhere
division.
our conference, I mean,
Yeah.
if we play
Yeah.
you, I hope you get roasted.
Yeah, you can go to the Giants. All right, just go
Oh
to the
yeah, then
Giants.
I'll
Whatever.
root
We're
for
we're
you.
gonna get James Bradbury from the Giants, and then they'll replace him with Levi Wallace. But we already talked about linebackers, so the last one is defensive tackles. Justice, who we have on the roster right now is Ed Oliver, Star Lotulelei, Brandon Bryant, and Eli Onquo. Justin Zimmer is a restricted free agent, and our unrestricted free agents are Harrison Phillips and Vernon Butler. Vernon Butler absolutely gone.
He's gone. He's
Garbage.
gone.
He's
He's gone.
he ain't
That's
coming
not
back.
even up to discussion. He's gone.
It's
Out of here.
one of the
Him,
worst
him and
contracts that Brandon Beane has ever done.
him and Matt Hack are like might as well like just never like one way to get out of Buffalo. Like you're never coming back unless you play us on the schedule.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Which I don't see why anybody else will put you on a roster, but whatever.
And Eli Onquo, I think, is a guy that when he was asked to come in, actually had, he actually was fairly solid when he played, especially just look at the Saints game. He had a sack in the Saints game, and he's a guy who was barely even playing in the rotation. So he's a guy that I definitely like. I think he's one of those guys kind of like Justin Zimmer, that when you call him up, he's going to be able to at least be, more than passable in that position. And he's not going to hurt you if you put him in there. I think that the one that really stands out to me is Star Lotulelei. I know that a lot of people are saying, it's time we just eat it and we cut him, let Star be free. I feel like that it's just more beneficial to have Star Lotulelei on the roster.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, if they're willing to keep guys like Vernon Butler,
exactly.
Why would you just not keep Star Lotulelei? I know they're talking about he's kind of contemplating retirement. So, we'll have to see what happens on that front. But I feel like Star Lotulelei, there's been retirement rumors the last few years. So I feel like it's just something that keeps popping up. I love Ed Oliver, of course. I want Ed Oliver to have an absolute stud next to him, whether you go out in the draft and you get someone or you go out in free agency and get somebody. I have no idea. Obviously, I want them to bring back Justin Zimmer, and I think they will, as he is a restricted free agent. And, then you've got Brandon Bryant on the roster. Again, another guy that's just in that rotation, doesn't see a lot of snaps, especially defensive tackle. But I think that, he might, depending on the kind of resources that they put into the defensive tackle position, I'm hoping that it's a really high draft pick, hopefully, next to Ed Oliver. I definitely would prefer that over maybe overspending for a defensive tackle, or even if so, go get like somebody who's, a veteran defensive tackle that you can keep in the lineup and then go draft somebody and then just go with that. You already have Star Lotulelei if he's there. So you're going to have him, another veteran, and then you can draft somebody, hopefully either Devontae Wyatt or Jordan Davis. I would like either of those players. And I think that if you get a guy like Jordan Davis, who basically clogs up 2 gaps, that's going to help Tremaine Edmonds. And this defense is going to really, really flourish. So I think that the Bills definitely need to upgrade at defensive tackle. But I'm not, and I didn't even talk about Harrison Phillips. You don't even have to bring in a passable veteran if you bring back Harrison Phillips, because he was starting to put it on towards the end of the year. So how are you feeling about that, Justice?
I like Akeem Hicks at 2 years, 11 million.
Yeah,
Oh
I like
boy,
that too. I
I
like
love that
that
a
too.
lot. That would be ideal. So for me, obviously Eli Onquo, he is a developmental piece. So I mean, I don't really see any value in getting rid of him.
Mm.
You know, um, Justin Zimmer, they love Justin Zimmer, and I mean,
Yeah,
he's a hard worker, so I don't see why not.
he's a
If
dog.
if he is a dog, exactly, and if he, not only that, but if he's a system player, if he's one of those process guys, why? No point in getting rid of him.
Yeah.
Let him work his ass off the way he's been doing, so far, right? And I think you should be good. Obviously, Ed Oliver is Ed Oliver.
Mm-hmm.
I think he is working on his way toward potentially being one of, if not the best defensive tackle in the league. Now that a certain someone is working on retirement,
Mm-hmm.
because there was no way that anybody was going to be the best defensive tackle in the league until that man retired.
Yeah.
So that there you go there. Um, Now to the controversial Star Lotulelei. Listen, I don't get it. I really don't. Like, I don't understand why so many people want him gone. Like, when Star plays, Star is super productive. You know
Mm-hmm.
how many times I screamed, like, in my apartment about Star? Like, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like Star was killing this year whenever he played, right? I don't I don't know what this obsession with, oh, Star's a bomb, man. He can't do this and do that. Like, I don't really know where that comes from. I don't know why people have that thought of him. But I'm a big fan of Star, and I think
Yeah.
that it would be more beneficial to have him on our roster earning his money than to have him not on our roster still getting paid when we bring in another guy who is not going to give you as much production as Star Lotulelei, and we still have to pay Star Lotulelei. So, I
Yeah.
mean, I'm perfectly fine with having Star back. I'm actually looking forward to it. I'm glad he's coming back, and I think he's going to do big things next season. With Ed Oliver on the side, I would
Mm-hmm.
love to see, like I said, excuse me, if Akeem Hicks or Jordan Davis, those are my 2 wish list guys for a defensive tackle, to join us next season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think Star Lotulelei, the main reason that a lot of people keep knocking him is his availability.
Bang! It's 9:35.
Well, you really just screamed that into my ears, Justice.
Yo,
Thank
I
you for
turned
that.
my microphone off. I'm
No,
sorry.
you did not. You
Can
screamed
you
that
still hear
right in
me?
everybody's ears.
Can you still hear
Everybody
me?
heard you. Yeah, I can still hear you.
What the hell? Okay.
Yeah, I
So,
can still
okay.
hear you.
I'm so
Babe, it
sorry,
is
guys.
9:35.
I'm sorry, guys. Okay. So, I've had this mic ever since I've been podcasting, right? And whenever I press this button, it turns green, and that means you can hear me, right? When I
Yeah.
press red, it's supposed to be on mute, and you're not supposed to be able to hear me.
Well, I can
Okay.
still hear you.
Right, which is a problem, which
Yeah.
it's never done that before. So now it
Yeah.
kind of has me thinking, like, were people just like lying?
We were all listening to you.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, next time I'll mute myself. Sorry, but I'm sorry, Jake. Go ahead. Continue.
No, I was just gonna say that I think that the main thing is everybody talks about his availability, obviously this year with COVID, and then also with the personal issue that kept him out of the game, and then you you had Harrison Phillips kind of step in, and then he kind of took it over from there. So I think that I think that a lot of people are just ready to move on from Star Lotulelei, and kind of the contract has lagged on because of COVID and adding the extra year and all that stuff. So I think a lot of people are ready to move on, but I don't think it hurts to have Star Lotulelei on your roster. I mean, if he retires, that's a completely different story. But yeah, I think that the defensive tackle room, if you bring back Harrison Phillips and then you draft a guy, I don't think you're absolutely hurting, especially if Star Lotulelei does come back. So that kind of
I think Star Lotulelei is better than almost anybody who you can get to replace him this season.
yeah.
So that's why I want Star back. And if getting rid of him is going to cost me money and assets,
Mm-hmm.
then why would I get rid of the guy who I can't successfully replace the production of just to pay him any? Like, I don't understand that
Yeah.
thought process, and I really don't understand why people think the Star is a bad player. I don't know if it's like, oh, you know what it is? It's because he missed the 1 week, with like an undisclosed reason.
Yeah. The
So
personal issue.
exactly, but you guys got to understand. We don't know what that is. That could be anything. You could be having a baby, a death in the family, whatever. Now, when
Exactly.
players divulge that information, then we understand it's like, oh, he's having a baby. Oh, saying blah, blah, blah. Right. But when they don't, then it's, oh, cut him. Get him out of here. It's like, man, just let people live their lives. He wasn't able to make it. This is the NFL. They weren't just going to let him, peace out with a BS excuse. He obviously had a legitimate reason for not being.
Yeah. Exactly. But I think that kind of rounds out the defense. We threw some names around of guys that we'd like to see brought in, maybe kind of different scenarios of things to come in and really just kind of spice up the defense, make it a little bit different from the normal that we've been seeing over the last couple of years. And I think things that will take it over the top so that we're able to have these players develop and also have a good mix of veterans that will then push it forward to where it can be a truly, and I mean, a lot of people are going to argue like, oh, it was elite last year. Look, I'm kind of in the camp where, yeah, I mean, you can only play who you play, but they played bums. So it was a lot easier to look better against bums. Obviously, you're in the NFL, you're playing NFL talent, but trust me, there's tiers to NFL talent. We talk about it all the time. They were playing some absolute bums. So I think they were still good. They still had to do it, but I think that in reality, they were a little bit overinflated than what maybe actually their actual, play level was at. But still, they were a damn good defense. So, I think that just sprinkling in these other additions and then being able to bring guys back is really going to take the next step that we need to be able to get over the hump and to eventually win the Super Bowl.
Well, since I guess we're not leaving anytime soon, so I got to ask you a question.
What is that?
Do you think it was so that we're coming back to 13 seconds, and I know,
all right,
I know that this has been like a huge thing, on Twitter or whatever.
I literally have no idea why everybody's going so crazy about it. Maybe something happened, but I just know everybody's like, why is everybody getting upset over 13 seconds again? Did something come out?
Some reporter asked Sean McDermott again, and Sean McDermott is like, trying to dodge the questions and trying to like not put the blame on anybody. But again, it's kind of like, some people are like, move on, like it happened, like don't make them relive it every day. Some people are like, well, we want to know the answers. Well, I have to ask you a question. Do you think it was more of a personnel issue, meaning we need to make our defense better? They weren't really number one. They played above their stable and everything else. Or do you think it was a terrible game plan?
I think it was a lot more the game plan than it was the personnel, because I think it was more the Bills doing something that they have had a problem with in the past, and it's playing scared. It's something that they do, especially when they're afraid of getting beat over the top. And when you were playing a team like the Kansas City Chiefs, where on the drive before that one, the Bills literally got beat over the top. They didn't want that to happen again, but it was a terrible play call in that situation, and it ended up losing them the game. And I'm pretty sure I know what you're talking about now, especially at the combine. Sean McDermott was asked, and he was like, look, it's about coaching. That all comes down on me. He doesn't want to put it on people. And obviously, I understand. But if people are really mad about, not getting the answer about it, what is it going to change? Like, if you find out what happened during the 13 seconds, what is going to change? Is it just going to make you feel better? Because I'll tell you right now, they don't give a damn if you feel better. So, like, I have no idea why it's such a big
They,
contentious
they,
topic.
they just want to write articles so they can
Yeah,
blame
they just
whoever.
want to be able to write articles on, oh, what
Yeah,
really happened. What do you want
exactly.
him to go and say? Hey, I trust Leslie Frazier and he made that play call, and then what? Then everybody's going to be on Twitter calling for Leslie Frazier's head.
And not
Like,
only that, but they should be calling for Sean McDermott's head too, because if that's the
yeah,
case, you're the head coach, and if you see him call a play, you should be able to
you,
know, oh no, that's
yeah,
not working, and you should change it.
exactly.
So
So I think a lot of that has to do with Sean McDermott also being a passive defensive coach. In
yeah,
those positions, he's not going to be aggressive. He's not going to be your Greg Williams who's going like zero blitz on
thank
somebody
God. I
like
mean,
that.
well, I
Like,
mean
thank God he's not on that
they
level.
both got
But
burned. So I mean,
yeah, so
yeah,
I have no idea. I don't know what it really changes for people. Obviously, they just want to have a finger to,
yeah, exactly.
point at somebody. But at this point, really, who cares? It happened. We'll see if it's something that continues to happen. Yeah, I can see why, we want to know what's going on. And I'm going to say, if it continues to happen, then we're going to know it's probably a combination of Sean McDermott and Leslie Frazier.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah,
don't know. Well,
I think people just naturally are more comfortable when they have someone to blame. And I can
yeah.
say that because I know when we watched the Colts game and the whole team played like garbage,
Mhm.
I just was so demoralized. At least, on another week, I could be like, or like for instance, the first Patriots game. Oh, Stephon Diggs never drops that touchdown passes
Yeah.
again. You know what I mean? And you were like, oh, well, that's the. But yeah. Anyway, but we can go ahead and get into final thoughts for tonight.
Yeah.
Um, you want to start us off, Jake?
Yeah, sure. I'll final thoughts are that, you know, 13 seconds happen, get over it. But also that, it's a long off season and we're just kind of getting started. Of course, the new league year happens, I believe not next week, but the week after that. So definitely that's when everything's about to start getting crazy. And I think the Buffalo Bills are going to start making moves and we're going to actually see what the Bills' game plan is, and then we're going to be able to start getting into real draft talks. Obviously, we got the combine coming on, but once we see what the Bills do in the offseason, that'll give us more indication on what they are going to do come the draft, and we can have really intelligent conversations about that. So that's definitely something I'm looking forward to. It's a long offseason, but I'm glad we're going to be doing it here on Breakdown Buffalo, and something that we're going to get started and eventually, market it a little bit better than it is
Right.
right now, obviously, because we're just starting, but I can't wait.
Absolutely. This is about to be absolutely epic. My final thoughts are going to be this is about to be absolutely epic. So make sure you guys stay tuned. We got a lot of big things planned. We thinking outside the box. So
Mm-hmm.
this is nothing like anything you're used to. Okay. This is not some brand. All right. We're not
Mm.
trying to compete with Cover One and
No.
Buffalo Fanatics, anything like that. Right. This is we'll tell you guys about it later.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yes, thank you guys for tuning in and kicking it with us this Friday night. Yeah, man. Thank you, obviously, Jake, for joining me tonight. I don't know what you got planned, but I'm going to see the Batman. So
I hope you
hopefully,
enjoy it, man.
yes, man. Hopefully, I'm looking to enjoy my Friday night. Do you got plans tonight, bro?
I'm gonna go to sleep because I have to go into work in the morning. But
Uh,
that's just kind of what happens. So I but thankfully, after I go to work tomorrow, I have literally like the next 4 days off. So it's
oh,
definitely going to
dope.
be yeah, it's going to be some great relaxation time. And I'm going to sit there and I'm actually going to put some work in for Breakdown Buffalo, and we're
Me
going to
too.
get some things all set up. So
Me too.
it's going to be
Absolutely.
great.
We'll be playing lots of Xbox and a lot of marketing. But
I sure
until
hope so.
then, thank you everybody for tuning in. Appreciate you guys. This has been First Round By on Breakdown Buffalo. All
There
right,
we
have a good
go.
night, guys. Go Bills.